Welcome to Fly on the Wall podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sonksen, CEO and founder of Church Boom. Here you get to sit in on a live coaching session as I coach pastors through the ministry challenges we all face. If you find this podcast helpful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Today we're talking to my buddy, Bo. He is an amazing pastor in the wonderful state of Missouri. He's got an incredible church, and we're talking about how do we know when to take a risk? I mean, you got to step out in faith and take a risk, but how do you also exercise wisdom and all that to make sure that the risk you're taking isn't going to end up hurting you or the ministry? So it's a great conversation, and it's something I think that we can all relate to. So let's check out the coaching conversation. How can I serve you today, man? What's on your mind? And man, let's jump into talking a little bit about ministry life.
Yeah. So my questions really have a lot to do with taking risks. Okay.
Yeah.
So
okay.
we want to be full of faith, right? We want to walk in the fullness of the faith, right, for the path that God has set before us. But with that being said, not being foolish. And so I'm 100% charge the mountain kind of guy. Just get out of the way and let me run. Obviously, we need to count the cost. Right. And so my first real question in that is, how do you define the line or how do you find the line on taking risks that may really stretch you as a leader as well as the organization?
Yeah, that's a great question because the term that I always love to use is calculated risk. I always use that term a lot. It's like I want to take a risk because I think risk is, I don't want to live in the box. I want to be able to take a risk. I want to make sure that I'm not too comfortable. I want to know that there's faith involved and all of that mixed in there. I do calculate the risk. One of the ways that I calculate the risk is these are a couple questions I always ask over the years. I'm the founder of a pretty large multisite, I go to multiple churches, and then Church Boom and a bunch of other stuff. And whenever I'm in a spot, Bo, I this is what I do. I say, okay, what is the worst that could happen?
That's good.
What's the worst that could happen, and can we live with it?
It's really good.
I love asking that question because now we're like, okay, guys, we're going to take a risk. We're going to do this, man. We're going to really believe God over the next year, this, that, and the other thing. And they know I'm going to ask this question. Anybody that's ever worked with me knows, okay, can we live with the worst outcome? What's the worst outcome? Secondly, I always ask the question, okay, what is our exit strategy? If this doesn't go our way, if something doesn't go right, if the money doesn't come in, if the leader doesn't deliver, if this thing doesn't whatever, okay, what's the exit strategy? How do we get out of it? And I asked that question on Big Vision as well as, hey, there's a campus that's going to sign a 10-year lease and it's a great deal. I said, okay, but what's the exit strategy? Is the exit strategy in 10 years? Or can we give them a 6-month notice, a 1-year notice? Can we do a buyout? What's the exit strategy? So for me, mitigating the risk, calculating the risk always comes down to two big questions. One is, can I live with the worst outcome, or can we live with the worst outcome? And two, what's the exit strategy? And that goes from Big Vision to even down to, hey, we're going to sign a lease. Okay, but what's the worst that could happen, and what's the exit strategy? And if you feel comfortable with that, then I think that helps to mitigate and calculate the risk. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And that would have been great advice a few different times. Again, I'm like, give me the ball. I want it. Let's run. And a time or two, that's probably, thank God, nothing huge, but on some of those smaller things, such as the lease. It wasn't a lease for us, but having that ahead, that would have been, that's huge. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So in that same vein, we're mostly rural towns. So Stockton's 1,400, El Dorado's 3,000. That's kind of context for where we live. So we're pretty flat as far as our staffing goes. That means campus pastor and then full of volunteers. Now we're needing to hire some support staff. We've hired a youth guy in one of the locations, and but that's a real stretching thing for each campus because we initially, and like most churches, can't afford all the staff that we need. And
Right.
so how do you make that move? And again, I know it's back to the calculated risk, but when do you make that move? How do you know the right timing to hire, even if when I go to the finance team, dollars and cents don't make sense?
Yeah. One of the things I can tell you that I think would be really good, a couple thoughts. You have what, 3 sites?
Yeah.
3 sites. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know if you have this, Bo, but I would really encourage you to have a grid. If you don't have that, to have a compensation grid.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's call your campus pastor. His name's Joe. And Joe comes to you and says, hey man, we're growing. We're up to 200 now. I need a whatever. Okay. Now, either A, there's going to be a little bit of tension there because he really feels you need it. You're over there going, I don't know if he really needs it. I got to go to the board. You come back. Then there's tension if he doesn't get his way. What if you're able to hand him, and because we do this in our context, what if you're able to hand him a grid before he even starts working at the campus and says, okay, at 100, you can get a part-time person. At 200, you can get a full-time and a part-time person. At 400, you can get this, and this. Now they may feel that they need a children's over a next step or next steps over children because they were able to get this real quality guy for hardly anything. They can divide maybe some of that, or they can play with inside of it. They can find freedom inside of that. But understand, at this level, you get 1 full-time, 1 part-time. At this level, you get 2 full-time, 1 part-time. At this level, you get 2 full, 2 part, whatever that number is for you. Now, that doesn't solve the money problem. I'll get to that in a minute. But what it does is it eliminates, not all of it, but eliminates a lot of tension.
That's good.
Because you're able to look at Joe and go, well, what's the grid say? Because no longer is Bo saying no. The grid is saying no.
It's really good.
Or the grid is saying yes. It's just a pre-calculated decision. So let's say you start your 4th campus, I don't know, September of this year or whatever. Okay, you sit down with, Bobby, the new campus pastor, and you're like, all right, dude, here's how it works. And he sits down and he goes, okay, wow, okay, so I get this at this level. That's one thing. There's another part that can go with it. You can get full part-time stipends, whatever. You can even have ranges financially. Look, here's what it looks like for you. But if you get the campus here, here's what it looks like for you. And here's what it looks like for you for your associate pastor. But you guys get this big, here's what that looks like. And that range may be from here to here, You want to have a range, you don't want to have a flat. But now you have a grid that tells them when they can hire someone, and you have a grid that says this is what the range will be. Now there's flexibility in that because Bobby might come to you and go, dude, I've got the most phenomenal children's pastor who's worth gazillion dollars, and they don't need the money. Let's just give that person $800 a month to cover gas or whatever. And can I take that extra $1,000 and put it over here? Now there's flexibility because there's uniqueness to every campus, but you're still living in a boundary that you predetermined before they even join the team. And that will help you a lot. Now, what do you do when you don't have the money? Because sometimes the number will go up, but the money won't go up.
Right.
Okay, and that gets a little interesting. Like for instance, in California, if you live in Orange County, Orange County is a very wealthy area. So now all of a sudden it's like, hey, I got to 500 at a campus. Okay, you get paid this much, and you get this, and you get 2 part-timers and a full-timer, whatever that is. But the guy in the very poor part of, economically challenged part of, however you want to say it, in LA, he's not bringing in near the amount of tithe that this guy is offering is, but he still is growing. We've predetermined, and you have to make your own decision. We're not going to make this guy suffer because he's ministering, he's part of our team, but ministering in a less affluent area. There's just no way we're going to do that. I think you in that case have to sit back and go, I got to manage this money the best I can, because I don't want someone to suffer just because they're growing like crazy, but they're not getting paid near as much as the other guy whose campus is only half the size, but he's bringing in more money. That's just not, and that's where you're able to manage all of it if it's a one fund approach, assuming that you have that.
Sure.
So, any follow-ups to that, or any thoughts on that?
I love that. I really do. That's kind of we are a one fund approach. That's kind of the model we've gone with. But the grid solves all those problems. Coming
100%.
into A, for the campus pastor, and then B, not only of when he could hire, but also the range. I think that's fantastic. That's super, super helpful. Plus, it's something that our team, the board, everybody can get behind ahead of time. That's really
100%. It's do it in corporate all the time, and so clearly, if a guy comes in and takes a campus of 100, and 2 years later it's running 1,000, he should be compensated. You know, and it's like, but how nice is it to be able to say, yeah, dude, you want to make an extra $10,000 a year? Get to this level. Now, one little note I want to give you is those numbers that dictate who you can hire and pay and all that, those two grids, make sure that let's say that magic number is 500 or whatever. Let's just call it 500. Doesn't really matter. They have to hit that for a solid month.
Sure.
Or a solid 6 weeks. And you have to predetermine that as well. It's not like they hit it one time, or they even hit it twice. But it's like, then if you hit it for 4 weeks straight, okay, then everything bumps up to the next. It opens up the next kind of vault door, opens up to your new pay and new hires. So I would just make sure you tuck that away in your notes, that if you're going to create two grids, you're also going to create when those grids are activated. They're activated on 4 straight weeks or 6 weeks, whatever you feel good with.
Sure.
You got to say that
up front. It's an average, and sure.
Yeah,
that's fair, because otherwise, a big event could push him above, but it's not.
Yeah, for one time or whatever. But you want to see, no, you're actually truly there. Now, dude, if they go, 505, 58, 510, 499, you're out. Obviously you want to be a little flexible with that. But you will find, here's the big thing you're going to find about the grid is, this is the beauty of it, is you're able to say, I didn't say no. The grid said no. You're mad at me.
It's brilliant. I love it.
And
I want it for you too.
I want it for you, man. We all got to live by this. And it's beautiful because everybody agrees to it. I'm not saying it's going to eliminate everything, but man, it releases a lot of tension and removes a lot of tension, because it's kind of like, dude, this is like, we all know this going into it. This is what we live by. This is pre-approved by the board. There you go. I don't have to go to the board. All you got to do is just hit this.
That's so good. That's so good.
And it gives them in a good way. It's, I don't want to call it commission-based, but it's performance-based. It's KPIs, key performance indicators. It's like, yeah, dude, you're running 900, bro, but you're going to get $10,000 raise if we get this bad boy over 1,000.
It's so good.
Well,
and it eliminates. I don't know if you have this problem, but with ours, our campuses, the other kid's the favorite, so to speak.
Oh, 100%.
So it eliminates that. It's like, hey, it's not that I love them like I love you, but they're hitting this count or whatever. It's
right.
It's so
and
good. That's brilliant.
They should be rewarded accordingly, and it creates, it throws the carrot out in front of everybody. I want another part-time person. Great. You're only 50 people away. That's all you're 50 people, you're going to have another part-time person. Good. So it really does make the difference. So can
you hear me? Oh, there we go. I lost you for a second. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. It'll pick up. But anyway, all I was saying was it's 50, whether it's, you're 50 people away from, you're 50 people away from getting that part-time person is what I was saying. And that's a great thing. They're almost there, so it puts the carrot out there.
Good.
Yeah.
So good.
Cool.
So a couple more if we have time.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely.
So we've got several people, obviously, I'm sure like every other church, that want us to come to their town. Those numbers range from, a few families, 10 people to 30 people. And they're joining us online or they're driving an hour. It's really why we started planting was I thought, I don't want people to have to drive an hour to come to church. And so we went versus build. At any rate, how do you find that or what's your method or metric or whatever to decide, okay, we're going to approach that city?
Yeah, that's good. I think there's a couple things. One, well, I wouldn't, I hate to be mean, but I wouldn't do it for 10 people.
Sure.
A lot of money and investment. But I think there's a couple ways to test the waters that are somewhat safe. First, let's call it whatever, city X. I would look at X and I'd say, okay, how many people are in the city and all that stuff. I ask kind of demographic questions, but then I ask, okay, what's our true reach? Is it only 10? Is it 20? Is it 30? Is it that we have, do we have people coming in from that area? So let's add it all up. I've got about 20 people watching online and they're pretty active with us. I've got another 10 that are not really that active, but they pop in every now and then. So 20 plus 10 kind of on the outskirts. I also got 15 people driving in from that area. So one, I want to calculate what do I really, really have from that area? Do I really have 20 or is it possible that I have 50 or 60? The other thing is I would test the waters with a pop-up service. I would definitely test the waters with a pop-up service if I feel like the numbers possibly are there. And you just be like, hey, man, you know what? That's awesome. Hey, guess what? We've got 15. Let's just throw this out there. We got from City X, we've got 15 people that drive in from that city already. We've got about 25 online. Man, what if I took off on a Sunday morning and had someone else speak here, or maybe a Saturday night, or however you can work it out, and just say, hey guys, on February 20th, we're going to do this pop-up thing. You notify everybody that's live. You notify everybody that's comes in live and those that are online, and just say, hey man, let's, if you've got some friends, family members that you think would love to check out the church, we're just doing a pop-up thing to see, what the results will look like. There's no commitment here. We're not sure if we're ready for that, but we'd love to just come and do a live service. Bro, if you do a live service and you think, maybe we have 30, and then all of a sudden you get there and you're like, there's 55 or 60 people here, and they all really love each other, and this is pretty amazing. Or you get there and go, okay, we had 30, but there's only 18 people here. Like, I couldn't make it. My grandma was sick. It's like, well, this is any indication what it's going to be like when we have a church. Forget it, So I would calculate everything, but I'm a big fan of pop-up services personally.
That's great.
My buddy does that a lot in Florida, and he'll test the waters, and he's got a big church. He'll test the waters with pop-up services. And I just did that with a great church in Washington I've been coaching. I go, do a pop-up party. Just do the pop-up party, see if people are going to show up. If they show up, great. If they don't, okay, well, then let's just put that, we'll just keep going, and we'll revisit it in 5 or 6 months. Sure. But that pop-up party, and if it goes good, it's not like, okay, now we're going to start a church. It's like, okay, we'll do it again in 6 or 8 weeks. Sure. And we'll just see for a few months if there's some natural momentum here. And if there's natural momentum, let's do it. But that's low cost to do a pop-up party with no commitment. You're just testing waters.
I love that. I love the no commitment.
I love the low commitment, no commitment. Oh, yeah.
But it really is. And again, I love kind of like the grid. It puts the pressure back on the people that are saying, will you come? It's like, hey, we're willing if you populate it. Hey, we're open to the idea. And that's great. I love that.
Yeah. And so you just kind of get all of them together, the key voices, the key influences, and just be like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do a pop-up service. We're going to see how it goes. If it goes great, we'll do another one in, 8 weeks. If it doesn't go great, we'll pull back for a few months and then revisit it. But let's try it out. Now, they know it's on them. You're going to come out there, man, and you're going to do it. You're bringing the band. I mean, you're going to do it right. I mean, you're not going to, you're going to do it right. You're going to find a little place, do it right, throw out some donuts, have donuts afterwards, and fellowship and hang out. I mean, you're going to, obviously it's not a full service, but, you're going to throw out some some signage, whatever. You're just gonna put on a great service. You're gonna come and bring the word. You're gonna have some great worship and have a little video screen. Obviously, doesn't have to be full on, but you're gonna do a good job without spending a lot of money. And you're gonna find out really fast: does this thing have natural momentum, or does it have manufactured momentum? And you're gonna figure out really quick which one you have. And if you got natural momentum, we'll try it again. And then after 3 or 4 times, it's like, I think we got something here. And the cost is like this versus, cost and commitment is huge if you go the other way. So that's what I would do. Pop-up services.
I love it. I love that. I love that.
Yep.
Last question.
Yeah.
We've had this happen over the years, and we've helped. That's really one thing that drew me to you is we've helped churches relaunch, rebrand, and do those. Really bring life back to them. But in the process of that, we'll have churches, and have one right now, that are wanting us to take them on as a campus. So is that a great idea? Is that a disaster waiting to happen? Is it all the above? What would be the pitfalls that you've been through where you're like, man, I don't know, just... What would be your thoughts?
Oh, well, there's a lot.
Sorry.
No. There's a lot, but I like your asking the question because I think a lot of people face that. If you've got a decent church and you're growing and you're an aggressive leader, opportunities are going to come your way. When that opportunity comes your way, it doesn't mean that every opportunity is the right opportunity. I do think that here's the thing that I would encourage you to do, and I've talked about this on a couple podcasts, but I'm going to shift it over to what we're talking about today. One of the things that I would do is you're going to get more and more opportunities because you're in that rural sort of setting. You're being successful in a rural setting, which is going to attract unsuccessful rural settings to say, take us. You're going to have more than that option. One of the things is, if I were you, go back to the team and say, because I think this is kind of like a grid, if you will, but I call it traffic lights. Red light, yellow light, green light. Red light is nope. Yellow light is maybe. Green light is go. So what are the 7 green lights before we'll take on a campus? Okay. And then all you do is just you create those green lights with your team. These are the things that I would look at. Okay, what kind of debt do they have? Okay, is that a green light, yellow? Okay, if they got a little bit of debt, okay, it's green. If it's like, whoa, they got a lot of debt. What are the maintenance issues that they're facing on their building? I know that sounds like, it's not debt, but it's like those are maintenance issues that have been, they got a leaky roof. They got 2 air conditioners they've got $75,000 before we even, to even get this thing even decent. Okay. Or no, it's not that bad. Okay. That's another one. Those are the things. So you're looking at the debt. You're looking at, that's a possible, traffic light. You're looking at the other, debt would be one for sure I would look at. Maintenance would be one I'd look at. I'd look at DNA. Okay. How much of we're going to come in, are they really willing to change and become us, or are they just wanting us to kind of put a pastor over them that is already doing and continue with the situation that they have?
Yeah, that's good.
Are they willing to change? And if they're willing to change, how far is the DNA? Is it kind of like, yeah, we're kind of this and they're kind of that. It's not that bad. Or is it like, dude, it is night and day, and are they prepared for that? That's another thing I would look at. I would look at the other word is difficulty. I would look at, okay, is there any difficulty that we're not aware of? I know this is going to sound a little strong, but like, did some kid get molested 2 years ago at this church? And is that stigma hanging over the church? Is that what we're inheriting? I want to know that.
That's good.
I want to know, going in, what stigma do you have in the community that we're now going to put our name on? Okay, that's a big one as well. So all of these things you start looking at, and you start realizing, okay, is it the right fit? Do we have the leadership to put over there? Do we have the resources to put over there? Those are all the things that I would ask. And then if the church is existing, now there's 2 kinds. There's church that's like, wait, we got 30 people left and we don't really have a pastor. Please help us. You need to sit with the leadership team and say, this is not a merge. This is not, we're kind of using some of your stuff and you're kind of using some of our stuff and we're going to put a leader here. No, this is us taking over you. And I know that sounds really strong, but I wouldn't beat around the bush on that conversation. Best time to divorce someone is before you get married. So
that's really good.
don't on that one, don't shy away from a strong conversation. Not a mean one, just I need to be clear that if we're going to run this, we're running it on our way, our systems, our ideas, our processes, our DNA, our culture, our values. Are you ready for that? That I think is important that the leaders understand that that's what's going to happen. Again, and you're not talking about bulldozing over, but if they're going to become you, and I think there's some areas where you can offer grace and you can make that transition over time, but the end game is they're going to become you. You're not just, unless you want to just kind of coach them for a while and then let them go and be on their own, that's one thing. But if their desire to be your campus, then you need to be all in on an honest conversation, but you need to go through all of that. Now, I will say something. I don't know where it's at, but I was talking to a guy recently in an area that's a pretty crowded city. He's got a lot of people in the city. He has a building being offered to him. There's only like 10 people left. They're pretty much done. But their bylaws say they have to give it to a nonprofit. I said, how much maintenance on it? And he goes, not much. I go, take it. He goes, I don't have the leadership. I go, just take it anyway. It's an asset.
Oh, that's good.
Just take it and rent it out to someone for the meantime and create income for the meantime. So if there's ever a situation, bro, where it's like, pretty much a dead church, they're done. I don't think we're ready to put a leader there. Okay, great. Put a lock on the door or rent it out to some people or find a rental company. I did that one time. We brought in, before we were ready, we were bringing in $5,000 a month. I was like, hey, $5,000 a month, $5,000 a month. And about 9 months later, we found the right leader, and then we kicked all the people that were renting out, and we started a church. But it was an amazing asset. I wasn't going to let it go. So that's just something to think about as well. But traffic lights, red, yellow, green. That will force you to do on traffic lights, Bo, is, and by the way, you can do this with almost anything. Hey, we want to start a new service. We want to start a new campus. Let's create 7 traffic lights. And we got to know that at least 5 are green and 2 are yellow and we're ready to go. But if out of the 7, if 3 are red, we're not moving forward. That will help you as an entrepreneur leader and your staff to hold each other accountable. We move forward when the lights turn green. But if, we don't have the money, nope. We don't have the resources, nope. We don't have the leadership, nope. But we're going to do it anyway because we're entrepreneurs. It's like, well, you got a lot of red lights, buddy, and it's probably going to be a problem. So traffic lights, by the way, are a great system not only to use in what we're talking about here, but it's great to use in your campuses. Okay, traffic lights. Here's what a service looks like. Okay, as campus pastor, you can create traffic lights of on different topics. Okay, I'm your campus pastor. Where do I have a green light? Total freedom. Where do I have caution? And where do I have a red light that says you will not do this as one of our campuses? Green light. Okay, you got total, you can do outreach and community, and we'll give you a budget and we'll do it. Yellow light. A certain amount of kind of worship or a certain kind of style of whatever. Red light is you don't have a choice in this. You're going to give people a chance to receive Christ at every single service. There's no moving on that. Think about, just a little side note, think about some of the topics that are an issue among campus pastors and create hey, just so you know, when it comes to this subject, you have a red light. When it comes to this subject, you have a red light. But here you've got yellows and here you got greens. They'll know where they have freedom, limited freedom, and no freedom at all.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, that'll help you. And you just and if you because behavior shapes culture and behavior shapes language, language shapes behavior shapes culture. So the language that shapes the behavior shapes culture. The language is How cool is it in your church that we all just know, hey, don't forget, that's, hey, did it pass the traffic lights? It's just the language. Everybody's like, yeah, they're all green. Everybody just knows. Or it's like, hey, dude, let's look at the document. That's a red light. And you're kind of doing some stuff that's outside of our traffic lights, you know, and you're going against a red light. We can't do that. It becomes a language that everybody just understands.
Love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Cool. Dude, you got anything else, my man?
No, my head's swimming. So a lot to work through.
Oh,
it's
dude.
so good though. So helpful, man. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Absolutely. Well, dude, it's always good to hang out with you. Sure appreciate your heart, man, for the kingdom. And thanks for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. And again, it's super helpful.